The program that you're about to hear contains material that may be offensive to some listeners. Listener discretion is advised.
Go ahead. Make my day.
2, 1, 0.
Hello and welcome to Right and Writer, the official podcast of the Washington Free Beacon. I'm your host, Elizabeth Harrington. You can follow me on Twitter at LizWFB. Joining me from the right today is Free Beacon Editor-in-Chief Matthew Continetti. You may remember him from such mainstream media outlets as National Review and the Claremont Review of Books. You can follow him on Twitter at Continetti. Hello, Matt.
Hello, Liz.
And further to Matt's right is Free Beacon President Aaron Harrison, former extra on Empire. We're not exactly sure what he does around the office, but he signs the checks, and that's good enough for us. Hello, Harrison.
Good morning.
Up first on Right and Writer, President Trump told Nicolas Maduro to let his people go and warned the Venezuelan military to let humanitarian aid into the country or they will find no safe harbor, no easy exit, and no way out. Quote, "We seek a peaceful transition of power," Trump said, but all options are open. Matt, when should the invasion begin?
Well, the inflection point seems to be this Saturday, February 23rd, that marks 1 month since the United States recognized Juan Guaido as the legitimate president of Venezuela. And it's also Guaido's deadline for the Venezuelan government basically to allow the humanitarian aid which is amassed on the Colombian border into Venezuela. The question is what happens, because my understanding is, and I'm working on something on this right now, my understanding is that Guaido is going to try to bring in the aid. So we won't bring in the aid. Mm-hmm. He gets Venezuelans to bring in the aid. The question then is, will the military fire on the Venezuelans? And if that happens, what is the consequence? And so I think Trump has done a good thing so far in recognizing Guaido, in leading an international coalition to pressure Maduro and enforcing freedom in Venezuela. However, we're now getting to the part where the rubber has to meet the road, because right. If you just have a bloodbath and nothing happens and Maduro and still has the military, then what exactly is the outcome here?
Harrison.
This is a big problem for the Democratic Party. I need Bernie Sanders on record today figuring out which side he's on now that Sanders is in the race.
Right.
I mean, this is kind of like their utopian society down there in Venezuela. Like, they've got the socialists running the country. This is where it always goes. So, you have to figure out what the military policy is going to be behind the socialist government. Like, AOC, I think, is already on record saying that she's down with Maduro.
Yeah. So is Ilhan Omar, pretty much.
And you've got Tulsi Gabbard, who's out there, big Syria, Bashar Assad fan. So this is really where the divide is going to be. And this is what's really I think this is going to separate the lunatics in the Democratic Party from the people that might be able to responsibly govern.
Aren't they all kind of
No, because it's a race to the left, right? The more that they say that they support what we would consider a democratic republic down in Venezuela, the less their support is going to be from the Democratic Party. Like, that's where they go, because they lose the activists. When you lose the activists, the Che Guevara t-shirt wearing freaks out there, then you got no place to go, and you're not going to win the Democratic nomination. So it's a real problem for them. I mean, the Republican Party is united on this. We know who the bad guys are, and we're taking it to them.
All right, up next, known liar and partisan hack Andy McCabe continues on his Resistance book tour and is out with more conspiracy theories. He said he personally opened up a counterintelligence investigation of the President of the United States because he believed Trump may be a threat to national security. And he believes the Inspector General appointed by President Obama was out to get him. McCabe now says his plot to remove a duly elected President of the United States by means of the 25th Amendment is a, quote, distraction from, I suppose, 2 years of maybe Trump being a Russian stooge with zero evidence. Meanwhile, Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein who likes to joke about wearing a wire, is planning to leave the Justice Department next month. Matt, good riddance?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why he was still there after the New York Times reported that. God, when was that? That was
a long time
ago. Somehow he stuck to his job. It's another sign that maybe they expect Mueller to finish next month because he's become so invested in Mueller. But, that's just tea leaf reading and mindless speculation on my part. McCabe is trying to clean up his reputation, just like Comey was trying to clean up his reputation, and I don't think it's going very well. The key is I have two takeaways. One is it's not for Andrew McCabe to decide based on statements the president makes whether this president constitutes a threat to national security.
Right. Who does he? Yeah, exactly. Who does he think he is?
And the second is, in one of the reports, I saw that when this discussion was being, held over the 25th Amendment, someone said that 2 cabinet officers were interested. And I wonder whether either of them are still in the cabinet, because my suspicion would be that they both were part of 2 of the big 4, and both by December of last year have resigned.
Hi, Arson.
Well, today's episode is also brought to us by the number 1, because that is, I believe, where he is currently ranked. His new book is on Amazon. Thanks to all of this publicity, the media is there to provide him with 60 Minutes and the overexposure and the round-the-clock coverage on MSNBC. But, this is all going nowhere.
He's got a lot of legal bills to pay.
He's got a lot of legal bills.
Well, he had that GoFundMe.
Because of the leak. I mean, that whitewashing of what he did. Also, who's hardest hit by his number 1 book sales? Howard Schultz, who's just done number 3.
Oh, no.
How the hell is Howard Schultz at number 3? I can't believe that guy's in the top 100. That's that town hall that clown put on last week on CNN. By the way, what the hell is CNN doing? Like with these, they are in such a
trying to defeat
mess.
Trump. That's what they're doing.
They have 35 Democrats that they now owe a town hall to. I was reading this morning that there are all the other campaigns.
Yeah, when are we getting our
Has
town hall?
Pete Buttigieg, has he had his town hall?
I am sure that Buttigieg's top hall or town hall is going to be next week. I'm sure.
Did you see that?
You can do one of these things every day.
In the New York Times today, there's a piece about Obama and giving advice to the Democrats. And they say that Obama's expressed interest in Buttigieg.
I'm sure he's expressed a lot of...
I thought you were going to say expressed interest in doing a town hall for himself.
Yeah, that, you know
when
what?
does Obama get it?
That's
when's
what's
his
going to
Netflix
happen.
show?
Well, look,
the whole story, the New York Times story, is just... Well, he's not very interested because he wants to talk about himself. Like, he doesn't... He wants to talk about his campaign.
Well, because...
that's his advice.
Well, the big problem for Trump, or for Obama, is that he doesn't have a legacy anymore. Okay?
I know.
His legacy is the
that
presidency.
was in the piece, too. It was hilarious. There was the kicker quote was I forget who, but it was like, all the diverse candidates this year, that's Obama's legacy.
The closest, the closest thing
that's
he
just
has
America. That's
the closest thing he
they
has to a
they
legacy.
list everything that he's thinking about, and it's all gone. Paris, Iran deal, everything.
And you would think that if he had...
Except healthcare, but the mandate's gone, too.
Well, you would think that if he was interested in preserving a legacy, that the endorsement for Joe Biden would have already taken place. That is your heir
that's
to
the best
freaking
part.
throne.
Poor Joe.
And yet again, he can't bring himself to endorse Joe Biden. He talked him out of running in 2016. He's doing it again actively right now because there was another nugget in that story that who else was Obama talking to and really having serious conversations about? Well, his best friend, Eric Holder.
Yeah.
Holder and Beto.
He would rather Holder or Beto.
He doesn't like Biden very much.
Beta or Biden, like those are the two guys that he would. I think honestly, he would want Holder to be in there. Like that is the guy that has been with him arm in arm since day one.
Holder just exudes charisma, so I'm sure he's going to jump to the top of 2020.
I just don't
contenders.
know how, as a former vice president, you can credibly run for president without having the endorsement of the guy who you were serving with.
All right, up next, Anthony Weiner is out at the Slammer and was spotted getting food delivered to his halfway house. Oddly, Weiner wasn't answering his phone when the delivery guy, Carlos, was waiting outside the building. Carlos had no idea he was delivering food to Carlos Danger. But after he was told, he said, he's a pervert. Harrison, accurate?
I'm just shocked that Carlos was delivering to Carlos Danger. It's amazing. Look, Weiner is out. He is sprung free from jail.
The Weiner out. The pecker picks.
Yeah. So
where's Vic when you need him?
The phallic metaphors are everywhere.
Yes,
in America.
I have to say, I have missed Weiner. Okay,
Yeah.
I've missed having the shenanigans this guy continues to find himself in. He is incapable of making a correct decision. Like there is no decision that Anthony Weiner has made in his entire life, to my knowledge, after watching that documentary, that is the correct decision. So I am going to call it right now. Weiner will be back in the news in 6 months. Like, he's going to do something. He's still technically married to Huma,
Yeah,
right?
that's what I was just going to ask. Where's Huma? Because they are still married.
Well, listen, true love finds a way to conquer all. But I'm hoping for the best for Weiner. But I really do think Weiner needs like his own show. Maybe a midnight call-in show.
That's
on
what Greg
MSNBC.
Gutfeld's advice to him yesterday was go on Celebrity Big Brother.
When was
well.
the first Weiner scandal? Was it 2011?
Yeah, it's been 2012
when
maybe.
when Breitbart
Yeah.
took this.
That sounds right.
That, I think I have one memory from all that, which was, if you recall, Trump recorded like a direct to Twitter video.
Yes.
Oh, those
where
were
he
great.
Said,
You should
where
do those
he said
again.
no perverts
In New York City.
and I think that in retrospect was a key political moment, because it happened around the time in 2011 when Trump was thinking of running for president then, but it also showed how he has this connection with the deep thought, maybe deep thoughts isn't the right word, the deep instincts of every conservative Republican in the world, which is when you see what was happening with Anthony Weiner, there's nothing to call it other than the guy is a messed up pervert, and Trump just said it. And so there you go. That's why everyone saw that video and at that time, including myself, and was laughing and said, yep, he got it.
Yep.
Right. And he also predicted the national security threat, too, with the emails. He had the tweet about Weiner. He's like, national security? And then it happened. So
He's very attuned to the flaws of others.
Yes. All right. Now it's time to check in with our generational ambassador, Paul Crookston. Hello, Paul.
Hello, Liz.
Here you have an update on the millennials.
I do. So, as we all know, millennials are plagued by anxiety. And you know what creates a lot of anxiety? Relationships.
No.
Specifically, the uncertainty in relationships.
Oh.
So many of my fellow millennials have taken to drawing up these relationship contracts for people they are dating.
Contract. I think there's another word for that.
No, see, here's
Can't
the
really
thing.
quite think of it.
Here's the thing, though. If you're getting at the M word here, this is not marriage. Millennials
Of course
are also
it's not marriage.
Millennials are also into prenups, but they're literally making contracts for dating relationships.
So what's in the contract?
Yeah.
So they vary a lot. Some of them are just a few bullet points, according to the Washington Post. But some of them are as long as 14 pages, single-spaced.
This is as long as the Green New Deal.
So they vary a lot, but the idea is to create stability and certainty in something that is just inherently anxiety-inducing for young people.
But this is not the
you
same.
Can't leave me? Like,
right,
is that
exactly.
a bullet point?
Is it the whole affirmative consent thing what you see in colleges, where every time you
have to
make
ask
a move, you
before-
have to ask permission?
Yeah.
Or is it just simply Becky says that she'll do the dishes on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and Bobby says he will take out the trash on Monday, Wednesday, Friday?
It's more the latter, I think. But the idea is that it's totally up to you.
Oh,
and that
of
whatever.
course.
So
yeah,
only-
Find your truth.
So right. So then these contracts they're unenforceable?
They are not legally binding, generally speaking, according to the experts. But the idea is to have a strategy for your relationship. So, for instance, Rachel Sibley, a marketing director for a company that makes virtual reality headsets and splits her time between Austin and San Francisco, she drew up a relationship.
Very
contract.
millennial. Very millennial.
That is the most millennial
Is this person
geographic
real?
split.
Right.
Yeah,
you
does
could
this
think.
contract exist in the real world or just the virtual world?
According to the Washington Post, the fact-finding experts there say she's real. And she drew up a relationship contract with her man, John. And she said, this is her explanation, both of us very much understand the value of a strategic plan. A contract is just so clearly the way to optimize happiness and clarity in a relationship. So millennials are just happiness optimizers.
Through the contract.
And so when you break up, can you just break the contract?
Yeah, I mean, I think the idea is...
Is it like how to split the cat or something? Is that what's in this contract too?
Again, that can come up. I think the idea is it's laying out expectations. So relationship expert Vicki Larson says, young people today have more expectations for what they want in a partner. The contract helps them define that for themselves and for each other.
Have you ever had a relationship contract?
No, I have not. And this leads into another important factor for millennials, which is that they are all struggling with singleness, to use a term I'm familiar with.
So
what do you mean
So
struggling?
there's single. So there's no one to actually get into a contract with.
Yes.
And then
They
once you
have
get
it drawn up and ready
Right.
for one day.
right, and then you get into the contract. If you break it, there are no consequences.
Well,
Yeah.
it depends on what you mean by no consequences. I think there's no legal consequences, but if
The relationship might end.
yes, exactly. So a lot of this has to do with what are the repercussions.
But isn't
for...
the point of contracts the ability to go to a neutral third party and thus ask for redress when you say they broke the contract? So it just shows how purposeless it is. You can break up with somebody for whatever reason whatsoever.
No, so this brings up an important point, which is that this is about intentionality. That's an important word for millennials.
Intentionality?
Yeah. No.
Well, it's basically any word that you add
Ality, too.
Yeah.
There's all these new words that Microsoft Word doesn't recognize.
Isms and alities. That's really,
Every time I read about intersectionality, it's always the red squiggle line because it's
Pick a-
not real.
pick a word.
Can your intentionality be intersectionality?
Probably. Intersectional, yeah.
Yeah. So dating coach Logan Ury.
Oh, dating coaches. Oh, how many successful relationship
And software
contracts has he
developers.
had?
Yeah, he says it's all about self-reflection. So he actually has a
Isn't it always?
So it's really just about the person writing the contract.
It's a
It's
form
what
of,
you
it's a
want
form
out
of
of
self-expression. No, exactly. So he has them do self-reflection worksheets.
Who's writing these? Is this the girl's idea or the guys got not be? They can't be writing.
The
this up.
sources I've read say that they are always working together to draft these things,
bunch
which
of
I am
betas.
sure means that the girl is doing it all.
Yeah.
But Logan Ury says it's about intentionality and how you approach relationships. So it's more about the approach than the larger idea.
Right.
I think that just underscores that relationship coaches, sex therapists, all of these things, they've fleeced the baby boomers so thoroughly that now they need to move on, basically. So
Right. They need a new
To your
target.
generation.
yeah,
Yeah.
so good news, millennials. We apparently have enough money now to receive these people's
The
attention.
avocado toast, the house, and the relationship contract.
All right. Thank you, Paul. I want you to write a contract for your relationship to Write and Writer for your next appearance.
Sounds good. It will not be 14 pages single-page.
All right, thank you, Paul. Up first in our culture round, the racist, homophobic attack on Jussie Smollett appears by two guys in Trump hats during a polar vortex in MAGA country, also known as Chicago, appears to be falling apart. The actor is refusing to meet with Chicago police, has hired a crisis PR firm, and after the suspects in the case now say they were paid by Smollett to stage the attack. After immediately calling the alleged attack a modern-day lynching, Democrats Cory Booker and Kamala Harris are now urging caution until the facts can be learned. Matt, this is our first mention of Jussie Smollett on Write and Writer because it was so obvious that this story was going to be complete and utter.
Well, that's one explanation why it's the first appearance. My explanation is that I wanted to see the evidence.
Oh, right.
I wanted
you didn't
to
want
see,
to jump to conclusions.
I did not. I'm one of the few people left in this country, apparently, that wants to see the evidence and let the stories unfold and see what happens. And can we weigh the different testimonies? And now you see this, and the whole thing has just been exposed as a farce. You got the two Nigerian boxer brothers, who I love in their statement. They went out of their way. Sure, they said we're not anti-gay and we're not racist, but we're also not anti-Trump.
Right.
So that's not, so now Trump has to invite them to the White House.
Yeah.
Along with the
good
Covington
idea.
boys, the other victims of a liberal hoax.
Right.
And moreover, I think that it also has this weird ricochet effect of exposing Kamala Harris as not being quite ready for primetime because
no.
during her trip to New Hampshire over the weekend, she was confronted with the tweet where she called this a modern-day lynching and justice for Jussie, and the look on her face was classic. She had no
she was
idea.
Looking around
And
for help for a reporter.
This was my
and
theory,
aid.
by the way, of why she muffed the question on private insurance in her CNN town hall. I don't think she's actually all on top of her whole team and what they're doing and where her policy stands are. So when they ask her, what do you think about this tweet? She just has this blank look and she goes, well, the facts are developing. Yeah, the facts are developing and not in Smollett's favor. And I just wish this will make people more skeptical of what they see in the news.
Well, this shows how much more of an authentic character and authentic candidate Donald Trump is. Because does anybody out there doubt that he writes his own tweets?
Right.
No.
He doesn't have to go through hours and
Right.
8 aides writing them up.
Kamala Harris did not write this tweet.
Right.
Okay.
She had no idea what was happening.
And she doesn't know who she's hiring because she is actually
They're all sucking up talent.
so
that
phony.
It's like, throw out the net. Come on, guys.
Because an attorney like Kamala Harris, a cop, if you will, a law enforcement official,
Sent tens of thousands
not-
of people to prison.
knows
Right.
how
Minorities.
dangerous jumping to conclusions is in a legal case. She would never have done this, but the wacky liberal activist set that would work on work on a Democratic campaign today, they're the ones that are running the tweets, and they are the ones that lead the knee-jerk reactions. So I think you're exactly right. Kamala doesn't know exactly what she's doing here. This is a welcome to national politics moment for her. But on the Smollett case, I just got to say, I'm sorry, libs, that just MAGA hate crimes. It's not going to happen. Quit trying to make
in
MAGA
Chicago
hate crimes
at 2 a.m. during a polar vortex. Also,
it's just so. But the media and the Democrats are on the same
such
team.
suckers.
They
Well,
they want these scandals to happen because they further a cause.
Yeah.
It
Fits their worldview.
It is, and it's about, and the media trying to absolve themselves of any type of blame in this is just ludicrous on its face. They're the ones that pour the gasoline on these raging fires of.
and
Look
then
at
after
UVA.
they do it, then
the
it's
UVA,
time to get the facts.
Look, the Duke lacrosse thing, the UVA rape hoax. Those are there's that whole campus sexual assault storyline that they're trying to feed, and they need a national story to make people believe this is actually a serious crime. When serious crimes do happen, but it is not like this part of this narrative that we have this misogynist in chief right now in the White House is somehow pouring gasoline on these and making it okay to rape people on campus. It's just a crazy story. This falls right in line with that, and they're trying to do this whole, everybody that wears a MAGA hat is a racist and is going to act out on it. You saw it at the Covington kids. That was a nonsense story as well. So, anyway.
I mean, the bottom line, though, is, yeah, there are narratives, but this guy, Smollett, is nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, it's clear if you see in David Rutz's great supercut, the interview with Robin Roberts, and she's like, well, why do you think they would have done this? And he like has this weird grin on his face as he says, well, we all know my stance on 45. Well, really? I didn't know. I didn't know who you were. I didn't know who you were until this happened.
Racist.
So he's clearly.
How did you not know who he was?
He's clearly like delusional. And what I love it, Charles Blow of the New York Times, who he writes about race twice a week for the New York Times, and he said over the weekend, yeah, this guy might be crazy. You think?
Well,
maybe not trust the crazy people when they start telling these stories.
I found it very curious that Al Sharpton came out and condemned Smollett. He was like,
after he endorsed,
Yeah,
after he said
course.
this is how it shows race in America.
Well, I think that what this really shows is that Al Sharpton needed to be involved in this conspiracy from the beginning, because Al clearly was not in the loop, and I think he was a little offended.
It would have been better. Yeah,
That,
it would have gone better.
Al's kind of aging out of the demo that can lead one of these nonsense storylines. So I think he might have been a little offended that he wasn't consulted in the first place.
All right, up next, you see them on the street, you see them in the office. All of a sudden, AirPods are everywhere. The cordless Apple headphones that make you look really stupid are suddenly socially acceptable. After going on sale in December 2016, the creepy headphones are now taking over. Axios reports, with broad adoption, Apple has managed to re-architect what is socially acceptable and even desirable. One of its reporters, Courtney Brown, got a pair for Christmas and now apparently cannot function without them. Quote, "One day without AirPods taught me that I've forgotten how to talk on the phone and basically do my job without them," she says. Harrison, for $159, you too could look like a weirdo.
Well, I have never understood why iPods were a good decision for a consumer to buy. I totally understand.
iPods
I mean,
are earbuds.
earpods.
What are they called?
AirPods. Yeah. I thought
iPods are
these
so
things-
2006.
I thought that the AirPods were the dumbest idea for a consumer to buy from the day that they debuted. The reason is like, if anybody out there has ever put, regular earbuds in with the cord, the hardest thing about those damn things is keeping them in your ear when you're moving. So I actually liked the cords because that prevented them from like falling down a storm drain when you're walking down
that's
the
actually
street.
true. The cord catches them.
So I always thought this was a big plan from Apple to design something that is so easily lost and so easily misplaced that you would have to just go back
Have to
and
spend
buy
$200 on another pair.
Yeah, like five. You buy 5 pairs of these things, you're out, over $1,000 over the course of a year, just about. So, that's what I thought this whole plan was, and I just can't believe that they are this ubiquitous that people actually bought these things in mass.
This happened before with Bluetooth, and yet
Now
Bluetooth went nowhere. You rarely see them, but now you see these earbuds, AirPods everywhere, and it is true. I was recently in Penn Station, and it's hard to separate the schizos from the business people, and so I now have to do a double take for everyone and say, "Hold it, are you dangerously crazy, or are you just on a phone conversation?" Talking, because it looks like you're just talking to air.
Yeah.
And you're enclosed in your own little sphere.
It just makes you look like an alien. It just makes you look weird.
Maybe this will make being schizophrenic more socially acceptable.
Well, we're going along. We've already gone a long ways toward that. And I've worried that this might be another step, as you say.
All right, up next, just what we've all been waiting for to make flying better. Airlines are going to give us a non-binary choice under gender to be more inclusive. The AP reports the gender option on airline sites will soon include choices such as undisclosed or unspecified. There could also be the optional title of MX. Harrison, but when are they going to ban men from stripping down to their boxers on international flights?
I've never found a problem with that. Like, anytime I want to get a little more comfortable, change into my jammies out in the main cabin on my international flight.
Did people do that? Did that happen?
That happened over the weekend. There was this tweet going around. She was on a flight. I don't know. Somebody tweeted a picture of the guy in his boxers. So once they got into the air, going to France or something.
Wow.
Well, this is what happens.
It's disgusting.
That is disgusting.
When you let people take their shoes off, then their socks come off.
Yeah.
And eventually we're just going to be rolling around naked on these planes. So
the Mile High Club.
I don't understand. What does I'm thinking, okay, if you have a non-binary option on your form, like what I don't understand what gender really has to do.
What purpose does that serve?
In registering on the flight in the first place, other than to know how many dicks you have to find after the plane crashes. Is like there's not a whole lot of people left, or a whole lot of
because
people left.
they have crews,
but I would
dedicated
imagine
to that. That's the task. Some of the team.
That was what your former job was, it not? Yeah.
When
you
I was
had
an
a lot of
advisor to the
jobs.
FAA, I was in charge of counting the dicks after plane crashes. It was a difficult job.
Unsung
everybody
heroes.
were looking-
Unsung heroes.
When
of
they
the
were
aviation
looking for that
industry.
Malaysian Airlines flight in the
Yeah.
South Pacific, it was bring out the dick team.
Right. Well, it's also another,
Where are they?
It's another data point that security officials won't have, because people like me don't like sharing a lot of personal information with the government. So I may start registering as non-binary just so they have a little bit of less information on me.
Yeah.
Well, right, and these are the airlines doing it, not
Yeah.
the government. So it complicates things even further
Right.
because you still do have to have a gender on your license, and the trans people, they just put the
Pick
gender
one.
that they identify
Don't
with.
pick 60, just
Right.
pick one,
So
and it's
it's
still
gonna be
male or
confusing, I
female.
think.
But why
What's
do you?
MX?
Why are you forcing people into making a choice of just one? Can't
because
you be
we're
a lot
conservatives.
Can't you be a
Diversity.
lot of them now? This is where we need Dr. Pondracker, because I think he would come
We'll
up with
save
a
it
proper
for a future
compromise.
show.
there.
All right. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today's edition of Right and Writer. I'd like to give a special thanks to our producer, LB4, and of course, our Free Beacon guests, Matthew Continetti, Aaron Harrison, and Paul Crookston. Remember, find us on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. Just search for Free Beacon. Please subscribe, tell your friends, and leave a positive review. Like listener Chan Croquettes, who says, I like beer, but $25 for a tank top? Yes, it's well worth it.
Look, fashion, R.I.P. Karl Lagerfeld, he said, spare no expense to look good.
It's true. Until next time.